What is up, world? We're back. Welcome to the Backseat Coaches Podcast, episode number 4. We have a ton on the plate today for you guys, and an exciting episode that features the trade deadline, talk about the Miami Heat and the Atlanta Hawks, and much more. Guys, let's go ahead and knock right into it. Let's go ahead and start with the trade deadline for 2021, which ended today at 3 o'clock with some gigantic trades. Let's go around the room to start with, guys. What is your most exciting trade of the day? E, we'll start with you.
Well, the Celtics fans got to talk about the Celtics here. So, obviously, Evan Fournier coming to the Celtics for 2 second-round picks and getting rid of Jeff Teague is it's a really good deal because you get a guy that averages close to 20 points on pretty good efficiency and has some decent size for basically nothing. So, it's a W in my books.
Adrian?
I think that for me, it's either the other man moving out of Boston in Daniel Tice, which I thought was a very interesting decision, or the Oladipo trade. I mean, this is a guy who's always shown flashes of going from star to superstar to good player and back. And it's just interesting because every environment looks like it's going to be the perfect place for him. Will this actually be the perfect place? Or is this just another false start?
Jack, any thoughts?
Yeah, for me, I like the Rajon Rondo to the Clippers. I like that a lot. I think that's a really big move for them. I think he helps a lot of their problems. And they got Lou Williams is out, but they still have great bench production with they still have great bench, and they should still be really good. And Rondo fixes a lot of their problems, so I like that move a lot for the Clippers.
Nick?
There's a couple things. First of all, I think that the Oladipo to the Miami Heat trade is very interesting because it really showed how much the Rockets botched the whole James Harden saga, because they traded more or less James Harden for Oladipo, only for him not even to make it through the whole season and get basically nothing in return. But the other thing I'm looking at is Vucevic to Chicago. So this move does show that Orlando, along with trading Aaron Gordon and Evan Fournier, that they are going into a straight-up rebuild again.
They're going to suck.
Yes, absolutely. But Chicago's going for it this year. They're the 10 seed this year, but they're only like a game back from the 8 and like 2 or 3 back from the 4 in the East. And Vucevic is a really good player for them. And they've got to go ahead and make the playoffs if they're going to trade him and trade away assets for a player of his caliber.
Yeah, I totally agree. Vucevic was the one I was going to mention, guys. I was talking with some buddies today in a group chat. We were talking about free agency, and I thought this was interesting. There was rumors of a trade of Kobe White for Lonzo Ball. I know a lot of people were thinking, and I was just talking to my good buddy Josh. Actually, Josh, if you're watching this video, shout out to you. And he said that he thought Lonzo Ball would be a better fit than Kobe White on the Chicago Bulls. I found that kind of interesting.
It's true.
So, guys, let's just go around and start. What you said?
Oh, it's true, but there's no way in hell if I'm New Orleans that I'm ever making that deal.
Yeah.
Because Lonzo Ball is also a much better fit in New Orleans.
Yeah. So, guys, let's just discuss. I'm just going to go down the line with just some of the early trades that were made this year, and then we'll just talk about each one as we go. The first one that I saw was the Bucks got PJ Tucker, the physical power forward, can shoot a little bit. He's from Inlow High School in Raleigh, North Carolina. Just curious about what your thoughts are on PJ Tucker. Will this make really any difference for the Bucks? E, I'll start with you.
Before I talk about PJ Tucker, Adrian, the reason we had to trade Tice was because with the Fournier trade, we were at 18 players. And since we're hard capped, so we don't want to go into the luxury tax, we had to move somebody to get off that line, and it just happened to be Tice, and his contract's up at the end of the year.
I understand the logic behind it, but oh my God, y'all are just hurting for people above 6'8".
Yeah, but
I think y'all
Tucker,
got Mo Wagner though, so
yeah, the Michigan dude that gets dunked on every other game. But in terms of PJ Tucker, it's a great addition to the Bucks because of his versatility defensively, and he kind of also just brings this like intensity and kind of urgency that I think the Bucks kind of lack. And I think he's just glad that he doesn't have to guard Anthony Davis in a 7-game series anymore.
Adrian, you?
I like the PJ Tucker move. Once again, it's just a sign that Houston, y'all have a massive problem. But as far as Milwaukee, this is now turning into a very interesting top of the East. Because as much as I still want to say that the Nets should run away with it, the Sixers haven't faltered. The Bucks are getting better. And, you know, everyone between 4 and 10 is a complete shit show. So, no. It's just interesting to see what happens because it went from one horse race to 3.
Yeah. Jack, any thoughts?
I'm just gonna totally agree with Adrian about the entire East. Really, it could go any way. Like there's so many different things that could happen with the East at the top and the bottom. Like you said, the whole bottom of the standings. There's so many different teams that could end up in the playoffs. It's really going to be crazy. And the end of the season, it's going to be really fun to watch how the whole East shapes out.
Yeah, 4 and 7 are separated by a half game. Really, a lot of movement could take place within there. Nick, any thoughts?
Yeah, I was going to agree with what you all said about the East, where the top 3 teams really do look like they are neck and neck with each other. And then it's very interesting to see how the rest of the seeding is actually going to turn out because 4 through 10, the teams are basically even. But PJ Tucker, I think he does really help the Bucks because his whole career he's been a really good defender and he's always been really good at shooting corner threes. And I think both of those attributes really help the Bucks.
Yeah, I totally agree. The Bucks are 9-1 in their last 10 games and have won 8 in a row. So this is a very talented and improving Milwaukee team. Will they do damage in the playoffs? We will see. It's a tough top of that East there. The second one I've got is the Heat acquired Ariza from the Thunder. Ariza, typically a good defender, decent 3-point shooter. Any thoughts on how this could help the team?
Just another solid veteran presence. Can hit a 3 occasionally. Has a lot of playoff experience, so you can never have too much of that. But just kind of a solid pickup and take a flyer on a guy.
Yeah, I kind of found this one a little bit similar to the acquisition of Iguodala not long ago. I mean, good defender, can make some threes. Clutch gene, a little different from Iguodala to Ariza. Adrian, any thoughts?
I mean, I've liked Trevor Ariza as a player for a while. I think that he always comes in and fills the slot that he's asked to fill. He's always the guy who gives your team a little bit of age, a little bit of experience, and sometimes the team latches on to that and sometimes they don't. But I think that he comes in and he does what he does. And so I'm always in support of a team picking him up when they need a strong veteran presence.
Jack, any thoughts?
Yeah, I do like this move. It's not a blockbuster move by any means, but it's very low risk and potentially high reward to get a player like that, especially when you get come playoff time. So I do like this move, although, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily a huge move. I do definitely think it can help me.
Nick, any thoughts?
Not really. It is potentially a pretty good move for him, but I don't think it's as big as I'm assuming the Oladipo trade that we'll talk about later for how it will impact how good they'll be.
Yep. Yeah, Ariza, I think, will be a good acquisition. He can guard, and the Heat, I think it'll take a little bit of the pressure off of Jimmy Butler defensively. We'll see how that goes. The next one, this is kind of old news, but the Knicks get Derrick Rose. He comes back for his second stint in the Big Apple, guys. D Rose, not what he once was, but still a pretty valuable point guard, I think, in the league. I'd put him in the serviceable category if we're doing the hierarchy of point guards here. Just curious on what you guys think of really the Knicks team and Derrick Rose.
Yeah, D Rose. Everybody loves D Rose. Like, he's one of my favorite players. I think the reason they kind of, what were you saying there? Anyways, I think one of the reasons they brought D Rose on was to mentor Emmanuel quickly. Some of their younger players kind of show him, show them the ropes and kind of how to handle the NBA.
Adrian?
I think that the Derrick Rose signing, since it's a little bit older news, we've had a chance to see how it's worked out, and it's worked out pretty well so far. You know, the Knicks have remained competitive in that Eastern Conference. This is something that we haven't been able to say for a while. And, you know, despite past abuses, egregious abuses to that man's knees, he seems to be on good terms with Tom Thibodeau. So, you know, everything's working out. Peace and cream.
Yeah, good looks there. Jack, any thoughts here?
Yeah, I just want to talk about the Knicks in general. I mean, they obviously have been looking so much better. I mean, the play of Julius Randle has been astounding. A lot of their younger guys have all stepped up, and they're just looking so much better as a team than they have in past years. And it's really exciting to see a team like the Knicks that have been bad for a very long time finally step up and look like an actual playoff contender. So it's good to see.
Yeah, I hope they allow fans to be in the stadiums because I know Spike Lee would be a show on the sidelines if the Knicks win some playoff games. Nick, any last remarks?
I'll just say that I think it's important for a team like the Knicks to have a guy like Derrick Rose on the team because they kind of have a young roster, and I think it's important for them to have a veteran player who's been coached by Thibodeau before and who has seen a lot of things and can still play.
Yeah, I agree. Our first big trade deadline is obviously a huge one. We've already mentioned it. Nikola Vucevic is in a package with Al-Farouq Aminu, headed to the Windy City for Otto Porter, Wendell Carter Jr., and 2 first-rounders. The All-Star, he's a phenomenal player, one of the better centers in our league. The Bulls, they're knocking on the door. They've been playing well. Guys, what do you think about this trade? E, I'll start with you. Big time, probably one of the big blockbusters of the day.
Yeah, it's the help kind of break the day open, which is a really good pickup for the Bulls just because they've been kind of lacking in interior presence. They've tried Wendell Carter. They tried playing Lauri Markkanen at the 5, and it hasn't really worked out. So Vooch is also somebody that they can run their offense through. And when Zach LaVine is having like an off night or not a typical Zach LaVine night, they can just rely on Vucevic to carry them throughout games.
Yeah, I totally agree. Adrian, any thoughts?
I mean, I love this pickup if I'm Chicago. Obviously, the biggest thing this means to me is that Orlando is fully committed to a rebuild. We saw them ship out not only Aaron Gordon, who's somebody who's been on the trade block for them for years, but also Evan Fournier and Nikola Vucevic, which were 2 players that a lot of people thought, you know, if they try and make a run of this, those are 2 players that you keep. Definitely Vucevic, right? All-star, you know, top 10 center. But so seeing them shipped out, and especially Vucevic, tells me a lot more about Orlando's willingness to full Brett Brown trust the process. Chicago's going to be good. This is a great pickup for them, but Jesus, they gave away breadcrumbs and got back a whole loaf.
Yeah, I totally agree. Jack, any thoughts?
Yeah, so like what Adrian said about how the Magic are committing to rebuilding, it's kind of the opposite with the Bulls. It shows that they're committing to winning now, which I was a little surprised by. I mean, they're a contender for the playoffs, but I wasn't really expecting them to make a move like this to try to win now. But I mean, it's definitely a good move. They should be a playoff team, and I think if they're not, that would definitely be a disappointment. So I think this is a good sign for the Bulls that they're actually trying to win now.
Yeah. Guys, I'm just curious on your thoughts here. The Magic, I mean, they were in the playoffs, last year or 2 years ago? I mean, they're really –
2 years ago.
2 years ago, yeah. I mean, they were on the verge, I thought, of really building on what they created through the draft and with signings. But just anybody can spit out their thoughts here. I mean, was it really time to rebuild, or did they still have something there? I know that Gordon wanted out. There were pieces that wanted out, but just curious.
I know I said two years ago. They actually were here. They were in the playoffs 2 years ago and last year, but they were knocked out early in both of them. I think it is a little early for them to rebuild just after 1 year where it looks like they're not going to make the playoffs. I mean, I feel like the Magic honestly have been rebuilding since Dwight Howard left. and they haven't really done a whole lot since. But I think it is a little too early to just blow everything up again and just completely nullify all the work that you've done to at least make the playoffs the last couple of years. But it's up to them. If they think that they're better off just tearing everything down and starting over, then that's up. They just proved that that's what they want to do.
Yeah, I disagree. I think it's been time for them to start rebuilding. And I feel like this can kind of be traced back to when they took Mo Bamba in the top 10, top 5 of the draft a couple years back. Because right now their timeline is Markelle Fultz, Jonathan Isaac, and maybe Mo Bamba, maybe not. He hasn't quite developed the way they've hoped. But in the Aaron Gordon trade, they got RJ Hampton, who has a lot of talent. They also drafted y'all's guy, Cole Anthony, this past year. So I feel like their timeline is not in the same timeline for Nick Vucevic, Evan Fournier. Maybe Aaron Gordon could have stuck around, but I don't really like the fit of him and Jonathan Isaac in the front court. So I think it was time for the Magic to rebuild, because if not, they're stuck in the land of mediocrity, which is where you do not want to be. So I think it was a good time to start rebuilding. Do I think they probably could have gone a little more for Nick Vucevic? Probably. But at the same time, you kind of have to make that decision like, all right, even if it's not quite what you wanted, you still have to make that decision like, okay, the time is now to start rebuilding.
I think they waited too long to ship him out. I think that they started shopping late, and it cost them as far as what they could get. But as far as this whole trade thing, I agree with Ethan wholeheartedly. When we look at their timeline, right, we look at Jonathan Isaac, he still has those little flashes of he could be great, and he will be good. We have Markelle Fultz, who's been slowly and quietly rebuilding his career since the disaster of a start in Philadelphia. And we've got Cole Anthony. And when we look at the players they shipped out here, Fournier is 28, so you could make the argument that he stays and provides veteran presence for that team, but he was going to command starter money. And in the future, I think they want to find somebody else to fill that role. When we look at Vucevic, is their star, but he's 30. He doesn't fit the timeline, right? He'll be on the way out when those guys are entering their primes. And Aaron Gordon's only 25, but that's, like Ethan said, it's a fit problem. You know, when you've got Jonathan Isaac playing the 3, maybe the 4, the way that they use him, it doesn't make sense to have somebody who's shorter and less able to space things out right next to him in Aaron Gordon.
Yeah, I'll be honest, guys. I was paying a lot of attention to the Orlando Magic at the beginning of the year when they drafted Cole Anthony. And I would check every night his statistics after the game, see if he was balling or not. He hit that game winner against the Timberwolves, but since he's been injured, I haven't kept up as much. But they started out pretty strong, and then the Fultz injury happened, and running out of time. Hold on, one sec. I'm gonna upgrade the. Okay. But obviously, you know, since then it's been a very downhill slope. Anybody got any last thoughts on Vucevic?
I mean, I'm excited to see what Chicago's going to look like now. I think they have a lot of potential to potentially do some damage. You know, if they can get to the 5 seed, which is very much in reach, they can advance to the second round. Outside of that, I still don't see them beating the big 3 in the East in a 7-game series, but I can see them winning in 7 against some of these other teams.
Yeah.
I think they've got to be a playoff team.
They got to make the playoffs, or at least be very competitive in the playing game should they make it that far. But I think ultimately for them to kind of make the playoffs, I feel like they really have to run their offense through Vooch. I feel like he's just too good, and I think that's just the way to success for them.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and move on. Aaron Gordon to the Nuggets. We all know he wanted out of Orlando, and he gets what he wants. He's now in Denver with the Nuggets. We obviously talked about it earlier, guys. Paul Millsap, probably not the guy you want doing the job at that forward position. They get a complete upgrade here. with Aaron Gordon. I'll start with you. What's your thoughts on Gordon to the Nuggets?
Yeah, I think it helps them defensively a lot because he's a guy that can cover a lot of positions. I think he helps kind of fill that Jeremy Grant void that was left after he decided to sign with the Pistons this past offseason. And also because Paul Millsap is very up there in age, and I think kind of taking some pressure off him will help. And also if they have to go against like a LeBron, Kawhi, Paul George, one of those guys, I think Aaron Gordon is much more up to the challenge of attempting to defend them rather than Paul Millsap.
Adrian, any thoughts?
I mean, I think I mostly agree with everything that was just said right there. I don't really have too much to add to that necessarily.
Yeah. Jack, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's obviously a help. This will help them, but I think that their depth is one of their biggest issues, and I don't know how well this addresses that issue. So I still think that some of their biggest holes need to be filled, but I definitely think that this will help them in the long run.
Nick, any thoughts?
What was the topic again, real quick?
Aaron Gordon to the Nuggets.
Oh, yeah, I think it'll help them out a little bit, but I don't. The Nuggets already are a pretty good team. I don't know if it really puts them over the top.
Yeah,
It'll be interesting to see Aaron Gordon next to playmaking 5 like Jokic.
That will be fun to watch. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I've always been. I don't know how I feel about Gordon, to be honest with you. I mean, we all know he can dunk really well in those dunk contests. But is he really a team that can push this Denver team over the hump? I don't really know. All I know is I see 4 teams on top of Denver right now, and all 4 of them I could say are better than the Nuggets. So, guys, I'm going to pause this right here. I'm going to run out of time. I have 6 minutes. All right, guys, next up we got Victor Oladipo, acquired by the Miami Heat, obviously, was acquired by Houston earlier in the year. Houston has some serious problems going down in that city in multiple sports, not just one. I'd say there's about 3 sports that are having issues down there in Houston. Houston fans, if you are watching this video, I apologize. He will start with you.
Don't apologize. Just feel pity.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, they suck.
What do you think about Oladipo to the Heat?
I mean, they couldn't have given him away for less than if they tried. Like Avery Bradley, Kelly Olynyk, was it a pick swap? So they didn't even get the full pick.
Yep.
Just a pick swap. So from the Houston, we have a problem, and it is the entire sports city because we're not even going to get into the Texans. I'm sure the Astros are doing something else again, but this whole Oladipo thing is absolutely ridiculous, especially when you consider he was the main prize of the whole James Harden thing. So, yeah, my homie Gabe, if you're listening, I'm sorry, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, Adrian, we'll get into Houston later, but what do you think about Oladipo?
I like the pickup, and like I said at the beginning of this, it all depends. Is this finally the spot? You know, the Thunder, he showed flashes. Indiana, obviously, that's where everybody assumed, oh, he's turning into a star, and he did, and then he got hurt, and then he didn't come back right, and everything got weird. Everything in Indiana has been weird for a long time. And, you know, through this series of trades, Houston we don't want to talk about, but Miami seems like it could be a spot. You know, he's got himself a comfortable role as that 2 guard. I think that he has a chance to prove himself as somebody who can be that guy. And I think he can do it in an environment where he doesn't have to be the only guy because he has Bam, he has Jimmy, he's got, you know, a team around him.
Yeah, I agree. Guys, I'm just curious, this is for everybody. So how do you guys think this new Heat lineup will work out? Obviously, Hero can play the 2. Technically on ESPN, they have him as a point guard. I would say he's a 2 guard for sure. Obviously, do you think this will Oladipo will immediately start and bump Hero to the bench? Do you think Hero will start and Oladipo will jump to the bench? Anybody can open up on this. Just curious what you guys' thoughts.
I think Oladipo should start. I think he's a worthy of a starting spot, especially since Tyler Hero has not really been playing well, especially recently. He's been shooting really poorly, especially I think the last 10 games he's shooting like 20% from three or something really awful like that. But I definitely think that Oladipo deserves a starting spot. I'm not totally sure how the whole lineup will work out, but I definitely think that Oladipo should get a spot on the starting roster.
I think
Oh, my bad. Go ahead.
I think the only question here is, it's not will Depot start, it's will they try and slide Harrow to point guard, or will they play Dragic there? That's really the only question for me. 2 through 5 is pretty set as far as their positions. I guess you could argue that there are a few different ways they could go at power forward, but I say that they stick with what they've been doing. So I think that their one question right now is, Harrow or Dragic, and I think that Dragic's the right answer.
I think a lot of it will depend on if Jimmy Butler's healthy, because he has been in and out, and Spo is very matchup oriented. He's not afraid to mix up the lineup, but I honestly think that they'll start Oladipo, Robinson, and Butler on the perimeter, and not have like a traditional point guard, and kind of have Jimmy Butler kind of, I guess, run. Now, I don't want to say run point, but kind of be the primary ball handler, with Oladipo sharing some of that responsibility. And then you'll have Bam. And that last guy is kind of up for it. I think most likely would be Trevor Ariza, just because he can help space the floor and defend. But, because they've been starting Kelly Olynyk, who they just dealt. And then I think before that it was Mo Harkless, who also got dealt. So they might have to come back with a new lineup.
No, I think Mo Harkless is still listed as.
No, he got dealt. He got traded to the Kings for Bialiska.
Oh,
yeah, that happened.
So they might start him. They might start him.
In that case, Bielitz is starting.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I feel like they have a lot they can do here. Duncan Robinson is a really good shooter. He can space the floor. You know what Jimmy can do. They have a plethora of talent. This is a team that actually has a plethora of talent, unlike the Washington Wizards. All right, guys, let's move on here. Let's go ahead and get in. Or does anybody have any last thoughts on the Oladipo? Sorry, I skipped Jack and Nick. Y'all good?
I got one more thing.
Yeah, what's up, E?
So I just want to say that with the Oladipo trade, it kind of also helps preserve some of their summer cap space, since Oladipo is a free agent at the end of the year. It doesn't impact what they could do in the summer, because I know they were saving it for this year, hoping Giannis Antetokounmpo would be available. But since he signed his Supermax, he's not eligible to be traded this year or during the offseason. So I saw something about Kawhi Leonard going to the Heat. That's probably not going to happen. But they will still maintain summer flexibility while adding an all-star level player in Oladipo.
Yeah, I have to admit it. Just as a general fan, and I like Oladipo. I think he's a good guy. I really hope he settles down somewhere. He's been on a lot of teams. And if y'all know anything about what it's like to be a quarterback or player that just moves, athlete, anybody that moves all over the country like that, I know Fitzpatrick can tell you, Fitzmagic. He's been in a lot of different homes, and it's not easy. So I hope he settles down. Guys, let's go ahead and move into the NCAA tournament, guys. I wrote down the word unexpected because that completely defined the first week of March Madness in the tournament. Guys, just initial reactions to the tournament. Anything you guys want to say? E, I'll start with you.
To the people that listen to Jack and I talk about Illinois, we apologize. To the people that listen to me talk about how good Cade Cunningham was, I apologize. That proves March is truly unpredictable. And I would just like to say Cade is still going number one, and that I'm a little rusty since we didn't have March Madness last year. That that's the reason I didn't get a perfect bracket. So
that's why the picks are
want to make that known.
Sure.
I've got to say this bracket. I mean, yeah, nobody saw it coming, and isn't that what we want? And it's quite interesting because I believe this is the most, or tied for the most 8 or below seeds in a Sweet 16 ever. Obviously, we've got one seed that's gone, and it's not the one seed everybody thought it would be. Although, I've got to say Michigan's looking at Florida State with some fear in their eyes right now. For everybody's darling this year, Oral Roberts against a very streaky Arkansas team that has been shooting well. That'll be fun to watch. It'll be fun to watch because it has the potential of being a tight game. But if Arkansas gets hot, it will be ugly, pretty ugly.
Yep. Jack, any thoughts?
I first just want to talk about how nice it is to have the tournament back after last year going without it. It's so nice to have the NCAA tournament back. But yeah, I mean, this whole tournament has been wild. I mean, upset after upset. It's just been crazy. Only the second time that a 15 seed has made it to the second weekend. The most double-digit seeds ever in NCAA tournament in the second weekend. It's really crazy, and I honestly don't want to make any predictions because I am certain that I will be wrong. So I don't know what to say, but yeah, this tournament has been extremely exciting, and I'm sure that the rest of the tournament will also be exciting.
Yeah, I just have to say, I think this probably will be the most popular, what do they call it, like the savior bracket, the Sweet 16. There will be a lot of people playing the Tournament Challenge Redemption this year. Second chance, whatever you call it, because it has just been that kind of year. Nick, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I was gonna say, if anybody's bracket is not busted at this point, they're lying. If anybody says there's not busted, all right. Nobody has Oral Roberts in the Sweet 16. All right, don't even have anybody say that to you. But
come on, what about some Oral Roberts student right now who's
okay? Maybe them. But yeah, this has been a crazy tournament. I mean, as everybody said, there's a lot of double-digit seeds that are in the Sweet 16 right now. I'm expecting there to be some more mayhem coming up. And but besides that, the one thing I will say, for all the craziness that's gone on, I will say that Gonzaga and Baylor both look really good from what I've seen of them play. They both handled their business. They haven't really their games they played have not really been that competitive. Even the games they played against the 8 seeds, I think. I don't know if one of them played 9 or not, but yeah, one of them did. Wisconsin.
Yeah.
But they've looked really good so far, and I want to make a prediction about them, but I'm not because I feel like I'd be wrong. So.
Guys, this is just a brief reminder right here that Gonzaga's dominance in this tournament, they are favored by more points as a 1 seed playing a 5 than Alabama is as a 2 seed playing an 11. People believe in Gonzaga, and Gonzaga's shown them good reason.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's no doubt Gonzaga, in my opinion, is the best team in the country. And if they haven't proved that through the first 2 games, I don't know what else to tell you, or really throughout the whole season. And like Ethan said, I have a little bit of some apologies. I picked Texas to be my national championship, and unfortunately, it looks like my house is gone, according to last week's bet, since we bet our house on a team. Yeah, it's going to be tough living here.
Hey, at least Baylor's still alive.
Does anybody's house pick is anybody's house pick still alive?
My house picks the 13-point favorite against number 5 Creighton, so yeah, go Zags.
Oh yeah, it's true.
I was gonna say Baylor. Shout out to them.
Ethan, who'd you pick?
Illinois and Cade Cunningham, and both of them had to lose on the first weekend.
Oh man, so you're a full house in debt right now.
Yeah, I'm in debt right now. For the second chance bracket, I wanted to be different, so I picked Arkansas. So they'll probably lose tomorrow or whenever they play.
Jack, who'd you pick?
For the second chance bracket or for the first one?
For the Bet Your House last week on the podcast.
Yeah, I had Illinois, and yeah, they did not turn out great, clearly. So yeah, I'm definitely in debt. Gonna use some of that stimulus check money to pay off my debt.
Oh yeah, for sure. We like that. Well, my initial reaction, guys, is how about the Pac-12? I mean, you can't talk about the tournament right now and not mention the Pac-12 and not mention that Bill Walton on ESPN had 5 teams in his Final Four. If that does not define the greatest announcer in college basketball, I don't know what does. but the Conference of Champions is currently 9-1. Guys, there are some serious opportunities for the Pac-12. I mean, one is going to be featured in the Elite Eight, the winner of USC Kansas, or not USC, Oregon, excuse me. One is going to see Gonzaga, and that is going to be a great game. I think that's one of the featured games I think we should talk about. But there are some other teams in here. I mean, Oregon State. How about Oregon State? Ain't that right, E? Knocking out Cade Cunningham. Yeah.
Man, screw Oregon State, man. I don't know if they want to go there.
I mean,
they know they're the off-brand Oregon school, too.
Yeah, really. And then, in my opinion, one of the more dangerous teams is UCLA. Johnny Juzang, that transfer from Kentucky, has been unreal. If you haven't watched him, guys, you got to go check him out. He's the real deal.
And UCLA is playing a Bama squad that obviously Bama is a 2 seed. They're a big bad right now, but that's a very winnable game.
Oh, absolutely. I could totally see UCLA winning that game. So, guys, let's just talk about the Pac-12. I mean, they don't get the same air. They don't get airtime on TV. They don't get the same recognition. They kind of fell under the radar. One of my friends talked about it. He made the mention that he thinks that the Pac-12 is hitting their peak right now because they started later. I don't know if they started later, but that was his argument. I was like, what? I'm pretty sure they started on time, but they're hitting their stride right now. Just first thoughts on the Pac-12, the teams, anything.
Once again, screw Oregon State. Second, I think they've always been the conference that has been the butt of everyone's jokes. Like, you look at the Power Five, they're clearly, and they have been, the weak link. Most of that, I think, is due to just airtime, because they always get like the 10, 11 o'clock slot when everybody's trying to go to sleep, or in some people's cases, do something else. So I just feel like they're just having a lot of, they're having a good year. Do I think any of them will win the championship? Probably not. But, I guess it's good for them that they're finally getting some recognition. And as Bill Walton would say, they are the Conference of Champions, but when was the last time they won a basketball championship? I do not know.
Yeah, Adrian, any thoughts?
I said this coming into the tournament, and I think you can go back and find this verbatim. I said, nobody's going to respect the Pac-12 until they make the country respect them. They are making the country respect them. And I think we've got to just recognize that. In basketball, especially, I will admit, I'm part of the hype train. I talk crap about Colorado, right? I said that, and I believed in the Oregon team, but outside of that, I didn't really see anybody else in this Pac-12 that threw me any sort of sign that they were gonna make a run. And we've got a all Pac-12 game in the Sweet 16. We've got a couple of double-digit Pac-12 teams that are just in here making noise, and I've got to respect that. I asked, they delivered.
Jack, any thoughts?
Yeah, I want to talk about the other side. When you talk about the great showing from the Pac-12, I think you also need to talk about the abysmal showing from the Big Ten. I mean, I think the Michigan is the only team left from the conference that was supposed to be the greatest conference in college basketball all season. And I mean, they had so many great teams, and they just got bounced round after round in the NCAA tournament this year, I was very shocked to see so many of these teams go out. And now, like I said, they only have one team left. And like Adrian said earlier, I think that there is a pretty solid chance that they're all out by the end of this weekend. So I think that is the story, is how bad the Big Ten has been.
Jack, I want to piggyback on you. The March Madness app, I believe, does a terrible job with their notifications of predicting the winner of the game, because I was finishing up our doubleheader on Saturday, and I looked at my phone and it says Kofi Cockburn with a giant slam, Illinois is rolling, and I turn on my phone and they lose by 12. So, I mean, that was quite the shocker, I think, of my Saturday, was watching Illinois go out. But yeah, the
rolling on back to Champaign.
Yeah, headed right back.
Never rule out Sister Jean. Never rule out Sister Jean.
True that. Nick, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna bring up Adrian what he said last time if he didn't bring it up already about how the Pac-12 has to play well for us to respect them, which is what they're doing right now. But just to talk a little bit more about what Jack was trying to say, it's not just the Big Ten that's struggling that we thought that wouldn't. The Big 12 is also laying a big egg. I believe Baylor is the only team that's left in the tournament right now from the Big 12, and they were also expected to be really good. West Virginia got beat by we've seen a pretty average Syracuse team. Oklahoma State laid an egg against Oregon State, which we've already talked about a lot. I mean, Oklahoma, they weren't expected to put up a fight against Gonzaga, but they didn't really have any shot in that game, really. Trying to remember whether teams were there, but I think that Baylor's the only team left in that conference.
Yep.
I think you're right.
So we all thought the Big Ten and the Big 12 were the two best conferences this year, and the Pac-12 was not really that good. We were wrong.
Yeah. Nick, I want to make a comment on something you said. Syracuse might be the most dangerous team in this tournament right now. And I am, no jokes aside, talking right now because this guy, Buddy Boeheim, if you go back and look, I know I'm biased, but Steph Curry's 2000, was it 8 or 9? I think it was 8, 2008 NCAA tournament highlights. This guy, Buddy, is not that far off. I know he ain't got the handle. I know he ain't got the drive and finish, but he is shooting that thing. And Syracuse is dangerous. They're dangerous.
They are.
Oh my God.
I wouldn't go that far.
I know you didn't say that.
Curry.
He's
I
playing
know
with
you
that.
did not just say Buddy Boeheim and Steph Curry are not that far off. I'm just going to pretend I didn't say that.
Okay.
Instead,
Let me rewind.
What?
I was going to say Syracuse has a team.
And say
rewind
in
that,
the
delete the
college
footage.
moment
Yeah.
that they were in, the shooting is pretty similar.
And you could have said Buddy Hield. You could have
No.
said there are a lot.
No.
I'm just saying, if we're talking
All
about
right.
tournament performance, then you could have said a lot of names. When you go Steph, you automatically carry over the baggage of everything else that Steph is at this point.
Yeah.
It's also because,
You could have said Fletcher
Syracuse-
McGee, man.
but when you say it was also different because Davidson was clearly the underdog. They're not in a Power 5 conference. Syracuse is just a mediocre Power 5 team, so that's a big difference. And also, I mentioned this last week, is that teams that don't go up against the zone regularly do not know how to play against it, and it's been shown through their first 2 games that teams that are very unfamiliar with it really just don't know how to handle it. And then if they're clamping on that end, and then Buddy Boeheim's going off, then it's a pretty good recipe. I guess we'll see if that carries over when they play a really good defensive team in Houston.
Yeah, they dismantled West Virginia for a good part of the game. West Virginia didn't make it close to the end. Adrian, I saw you light up. Did you have anything else you want to say?
About that particular matchup, I'm just really excited to see it. Houston looks dangerous, but they also have made some dumb moves in the first couple games, and this could be something. Honestly, the Midwest is chaos. You got an 8, 12, and 11 seed up there with the 2, and honestly, I think Loyola might come out of all this.
Again.
Ride with the sister, man.
Yeah, the Sister Jean magic. I have to admit, what is Sister Jean? Is she's 101? I think I read, right, or something like that.
I believe so.
Yeah, if this is the magical season, this has got to be it. I'm certainly rooting for him. I don't know about you guys. You're not rooting for me? No bueno.
Nah, she ruined my bracket, so no.
Yeah,
I'm not like Oral Roberts or whatever the team that beat Texas.
I had Ohio State and
Abilene
Texas losing
Christian?
the Sweet 16.
Yeah,
I had Illinois winning the championship. I think that's a pretty big difference.
Fair. I had
Imagine that.
Texas in the Final Four, so that actually in the championship games that made me mad. So,
Imagine not having your national champion still in the bracket.
well, that's the only team in the Final Four I have left from my original bracket is my championship team. Everybody else is out.
2 for 4, baby.
yeah. I guess you got to have one, right?
Yeah, at least the one that I have is the championship team. So
Actually, hold on. Let me check. It might be 3. Let me go.
Yeah,
flex on
Baylor
that
is
right
my
quick.
only Final Four team left in. My sleeper team, LSU, for the Final Four. I had them in the Final Four, and they just completely imploded against Michigan. They totally had a chance to win that game late, and they made mistake after mistake after mistake, and they totally killed themselves at the end of that game, which was really hard for me to watch.
Yeah, Jack, I have to admit, I watched the end of that game, and I didn't watch up to about 6 minutes left in that game. But the last 6 minutes, you just saw that Michigan was a team, and LSU was five fingers trying to fight that team because it was just Javante Smart, or that's his name, right? Yeah, just going at one-on-one, and it works, but not against Michigan. Michigan's too good, and they just locked it down there at the end. Um, Another game, guys, I want to talk about that I watched. I believe it was Sunday night, whatever it was that Kansas USC game. Um, I don't know if you guys watched, but UCLA dismantled Kansas, who personally wasn't very high on Kansas this year, but I'm just curious on what your thoughts are because Evan Mobley is as good as advertised. I'll be honest, I've watched a couple of his mixtapes of early season highlights against some mediocre teams, and the highlights don't do his justice because he absolutely balled against a pretty solid Kansas team. Guys, I'll start with you.
I didn't really watch the game. I was checking my phone, and every time I checked, they were destroying them. So I think we all agreed that USC had a lot of talent. It was just whether they could just put it together. And through the first weekend, they looked like they put it together.
Adrian?
Yeah, USC. They had an impressive showing. Evan Mobley had a quite impressive showing, but they also played a Kansas team that looked like Kansas in the first half of the season. They completely forgot everything they learned, and I think that they're gonna have an interesting weekend coming up, where I think that they have enough talent to take down Oregon, but then they've got the big dog looming in the distance with Gonzaga.
Yeah. I don't know if y'all remember, but Kansas was out or near out of the top 25 early in the season. They had some early losses
They
and then
fell out.
caught fire. Yeah, I think they did go out.
Yep, they were.
Yeah, and then caught some fire beating West Virginia. They beat Oklahoma State. But, I mean, this team was a little on the edge anyway. Guys, any last remarks? Do you all want to talk about Oral Roberts? I mean, how can we leave them out? Obviously, two big-time wins against Ohio State and Florida, ruining everybody's bracket this year, including myself. I had Ohio State in the national championship. We'll start with you. What you got?
Yeah, they're definitely the Cinderella team of this year. Luckily, I didn't have Ohio State in the championship game, so sorry, Cam, you're on an island there. But I think the dude's name is Max
Smith.
Amos. Yeah, he's been bomb.
A Smith. I don't know what it's called. I don't know how you pronounce it.
Always call him Max A. Max A is a bucket, and he's shown that. And wait, who are they matched up with for their Sweet 16 game?
Arkansas,
right?
Oh yeah, sorry. Oral Roberts, nice story, but Arkansas is the last Final Four team I got left in, so I need the Hogs to win.
Adrian?
I've gotta give Oral Roberts a ton of credit for how they've played in these first two games of the tournament. Obviously, they've come out hot and they've won both games by 3. I think that 3 is an interesting number here because it also illustrates the number. It also illustrates the number of points of the shot that they'll be buried in by Arkansas. Arkansas is a shooting team, and I think that they're gonna win this. And I think that if they're hot, it'll be in decisive fashion.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if you guys watched that game. Florida was in control for a good little while until the last minutes of that game. I would say the Cinderella is over. Arkansas is a really good team. I don't know if you guys have watched. Moses Moody is really good. He's really freaking good. And I know is he from IMG or Monteverde? I can't remember which one he's from. But he's really, really good. Jack, any thoughts?
Not really have much to add. They're definitely. I mean, they have two really impressive wins, both late contested games, and it's going to be tough for them to beat Arkansas, of course. But they have already pulled out two tough wins. We've seen them do it before, so I wouldn't completely rule it out. But I think it's going to be very difficult to beat a team like Arkansas.
Nick, I know you're itching back there. What you got?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. I mean, they've gone on a good run. They've beaten two really good teams, but I don't think of 15's ever even made it to the Elite Eight. And if they have, it's been a long, long time. So the odds are against them for this game.
Yeah, I have to admit, we picked Ohio State unanimously to beat Oral Roberts, and now we're picking Arkansas unanimously to beat Oral Roberts.
No, don't start that. Do not start this. Do not start this.
About this game.
I'll save everybody. I'm picking Oral Roberts to win.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for the sacrifice.
Yeah. Does anybody have any last thoughts on the NCAA tournament bracket before we shift gears here?
Potential for everybody doing their second chance brackets right now. I don't want to be that person, but just be fully prepared for Loyola to ruin your day. In a winnable bracket, don't necessarily trust the seeding. Houston's good, but Loyola's been playing really well, and they've got God on their side.
Well, before we talk about Houston versus Loyola, I mean, Houston could lose to Syracuse. I mean, I doubt that they've played that zone a whole lot. And, I mean, Houston can't really score at all. So,
how hot is Buddy Boeheim going to get?
Yeah, exactly. I absolutely think this is a game that Syracuse can win.
I think it's a game that Syracuse can win, but I think that Syracuse themselves don't play well against very good defenses, and Houston's got defense in droves. But then again, I said that about San Diego State, so we'll see.
Yeah, the only matchups we haven't mentioned so far that I would just want to mention one last time is we were totally wrong about Creighton. Creighton, the issues, whatever it is, totally they're resolved because that's a good team. They're playing well. I know they got matched up with Ohio, but Jason Preston is really that good. I think they'll get obliterated by Gonzaga, if I'm being honest. And then the final matchup that we'll just mention is Villanova, Baylor. I feel like that's probably going to be Baylor handling business there. But Villanova playing pretty well, so, I mean, you can never really doubt. I mean, it's Jay Wright. Can you really doubt Jay Wright?
It's scary to make a prediction there because every year this is what we do with Villanova, right? Nobody talks about them. And all of a sudden we look up, oh, they're in the Sweet 16. And yeah, they might have beat Winthrop in North Texas to get there, but they're there.
Yep.
Purdue, who a lot of us had, isn't there, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I really think if you put yourself in the position to be successful in this tournament, I mean, it's 50-50. You go out there, you play well that day. It doesn't matter if you're the 16th seed or the 1. Anybody can win on any given day. All right, guys, let's go ahead and shift gears and talk about the Miami Heat. Guys, this is a really good team. I remember we talked about the East standings not long ago and a couple episodes back, and they were deep down in the standings of the East. Now they are the 5th seed. So obviously we talked about Oladipo earlier. Jimmy Butler's playing really well. The same with Bam. Curious what you guys' thoughts on this team is obviously surging. They're 5-5 in their last 10. But what's your thoughts?
I think their biggest thing was just getting Jimmy Butler back because he just means that much to their team. You know, he's clearly their best player. He's their leader. He's the one that calls you out. He's the one that does so much for them. So I feel like him just kind of being out of the lineup with, I forgot what injury he had, just his presence alone just does a lot for them.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a solid team. One more mark I want to make is I saw this earlier today. There was trade conversation about Lowry, and they were talking about a Duncan Robinson for Kyle Lowry trade, but people don't understand how expensive Kyle Lowry really is. He's a good guard, and just to give away Duncan Robinson for him, that'd be a little ridiculous.
Kyle Lowry is Toronto's he is Toronto's GOAT. It would not make sense to trade him away for Duncan Robinson.
Exactly. I saw that.
No disrespect to Duncan, but no.
Yeah, I saw another proposed trade for Lowry. It was Matisse Thybulle, and I can't remember who the second 76ers player, and 2 second-round picks. People don't understand the price tag. Adrian, any thoughts on the Heat as we kind of shift back to what we were actually talking about?
Yeah, the Heat. They're trying to make their own discount Heatles right now with the Depot edition. They're not at that level, obviously, but they're at the level to shake things up in a very tightly contested Eastern Conference. I think that being only half a game back from the 4 seed and also only a game out of the 8 seed, they have the potential to kind of solidify their spot in the top half of the Eastern Conference standings if they just go ahead and turn it around and start winning here.
This next question I want to talk about with Jack and Nick. The 4 seed, they are matched up. If the season ended today, a 4-5 would be with the Charlotte Hornets, our beloved Hornets. Guys, just quick predictions. If the season ended today, how deep would that series go? Hornets, Heat.
It's tough because, if we're accounting for all injuries and stuff, LaMelo I don't think is going to play even if we go to the playoffs. And the Heat, they will have presumably all their guys. So it's hard, as much as I love the Hornets, it's hard for me to not take the Heat in that series, especially after the things they did last year.
Hornets on a 2-game winning streak right now, though.
That's true. And, before...
one of them is against the Rockets, so does it really count, though?
Before the Heat had their injuries, they had won 10 out of their last 11. And it's really hard for me to pick the Hornets in this series. I definitely think we can get a few games off them. We do have a lot of really great scorers, but our problem is defense. And I'd say probably Heat in 6. That at best. I really don't like our chances in a series like that.
Nick, any
thoughts? It hurts me to say.
Yeah, I was going to say that something similar to that. It would be different if LaMelo was healthy, and it's a real bummer that his season had to end on like a fluky fall on the hardwood where he put his hand out and it's bent the wrong way. If he plays, I think there's a small shot we could get him, but considering we don't have him and we didn't make a move to get a really good center, I don't think we can do any more than like Heat in 6, especially considering the Heat just traded for Oladipo and made their team better. And I really like the Hornets team too, but it's just we need Melo.
Yeah, the other thing is that on the Hornets, the only 2 guys with actual playoff experience is Terry Rozier and Gordon.
And Cody.
So that will come. Okay, what a first round series.
Yeah, that 7-game series against the Heat back in 2016.
And Purple Shirt Man.
Yeah, thanks, Purple Shirt Man. We don't have a first round series win, but.
Anyways, yeah, experience shows that, or usually the experienced team will win playoffs. The Heat have a lot of that, considering they just went to the finals, bringing Oladipo, they brought in Trevor Ariza. So I think that whole playoff experience would come back in this series, hypothetically, should it happen today.
Yeah. And I find it interesting. Adrian, sorry, did I cut you off?
Oh, I was just going to say, if we're talking hypotheticals, how long did the Celtics last in the 7-game against or I guess, sorry, not a 7-game. They'd have a playing game against the Pacers. They could win that.
Yeah, we can win that, and I honestly would rather play the Sixers in the first round than the Nets.
Yet another year where the Pacers cannot figure out which big man they want to keep, and the answer is obviously should be Sabonis, but they haven't gotten.
They were shopping him and Brogdon though, so I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, very interesting. The Heat are currently 5th, which is the same exact placement they were last year when they made the NBA Finals. This is basically the same roster plus a couple pieces, and of course Victor Oladipo.
Minus Myers Leonard.
Yeah, minus the Myers Leonard show, which if you don't already
Hate
know,
that dude.
is a pretty big deal. Yeah, not cool. What he
Don't
did
say
on that
that
live
word,
stream.
kids.
Yeah. My final thing is, guys, what's the ceiling for this team? Do you guys see this team being a legit Heat squad that can go all the way, or is this a team that's gonna burn out in the first or second round? E, I'll start with you.
I mean, last year I think we all said, oh, they could do a little bit of damage, but they're probably not going to the finals. So, and we saw how that turned out. But I mean, realistically, they could potentially beat one of the top 3 teams outside of the. I don't think they would beat the Nets in a playoff series, but the Sixers or the Bucks potentially they might be able
Who
to
knows?
upset.
You play against the
but-
Nets with an actual defense, and maybe.
Yeah, but I mean, the Nets during their kind of when they've been high, Kevin Durant hasn't been there, so you have to factor him into that. So the Heat could upset somebody. I don't think it will happen though.
Adrian?
I think that they're a sleeper team in the East for sure. I don't put them in that top category of threats. You know, obviously everybody's a Nets believer. I think the Sixers will be a very tough out. The Bucks, like I said, they've just got better over this trade deadline, and it's really a question of can the Heat pull off 4 games, because they can beat anybody in the East, but I don't know that they're good enough to beat them consistently. This isn't like March Madness where one win and you move on. You have to be better than a team for a series.
Jack?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be really tough for them to beat any of those top teams in a 7-game series. I think depending on their draw, they could potentially upset one of those and make it to an Eastern Conference Finals, but I think it'll be extremely difficult for them to beat that top tier of teams. I just don't really see it happening. But I mean, again, they said the same thing last year, and if Tyler Hero steps up again, and if they start to get some hot shooting from Duncan Robinson, I mean, it's hard to completely rule them out, but it's definitely difficult for me to see them beating any of those top 3 in a 7-game series.
Last remarks, Nick?
Yeah, I mainly agree with what everybody else said. I think the top 3 teams in the East are at a completely different level compared to everybody else. And I mean, I know they beat the Bucks last year, but I think the Bucks did get better compared to last year, even if their record isn't as good. So I think they got more than enough players that can compensate for how they faltered when they played them in the bubble.
I was watching this morning on House of Highlights. I was watching a video of Trey Young. I believe he missed or made a game-tying 3-pointer against the Sacramento Kings, and the comment section was blowing up about how De'Aaron Fox gave Trey Young 37 last night and didn't even get mentioned. I'm just curious, what's y'all's thought on Trey Young versus De'Aaron Fox? I mean, okay, I know your first indication is probably going to be Trey Young's definitely better, but is De'Aaron Fox kind of underrated, low-key? I'm just curious what your thoughts are. I'll just go around. E.
I think he's underrated. I think he's on a team with not a lot of other guys, so he kind of has to do everything. As far as De'Aaron Fox versus Trey, I didn't even know that was a debate.
Yeah, the comment section appeared to think so. A lot of people were going, De'Aaron is Trey's father, and I just thought that was pretty funny. And a lot of people were going, De'Aaron greater than Trey, Fox greater than Young.
The internet is the biggest collection of De'Aaron Fox stands I have ever seen. I will say that. And maybe part of that is due to, you know, how hyperactive the Kings are on social media or this or that. But the term underrated with Fox always gets to me a little bit, right? Because you could argue he doesn't get the same level of coverage as some of the other big point guards. But you could also say that that's because they don't win. You know, he's been good enough to put up nice numbers, but has he been good enough to create a definable change in his team's success?
Yeah.
And the answer is nah, not really. And Sacramento's a small market. Small markets always get less coverage. I'm a Memphis fan. We've heard it our whole lives. So my thing is, Fox fans complain less, hope the team wins more. When they win, he'll get covered.
Yeah, I totally agree. Um, Trey Young is on the Hawks. Of course, everybody knows that. If you don't know that, I'm sorry. They're seventh in the East at 500, 22 and 22. Um, guys, this is one of the more improved teams in the league. 8-2 in their last 10. Nick, I'll start with you this time. Any thoughts on the Hawks here?
Yeah, they've really turned it around since they fired Lloyd Pierce, I think,
Yep.
as their old coach, and they promoted Nate McMillan. Ever since then, they've just been on a roll. And I don't know how. I think they can be a playoff team. I don't know if they can do much besides that, but yeah, they've won a lot lately, and we'll see what they're like the rest of the year.
Jack?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they have turned it around. They've been playing better, but I mean, you look at some of those teams that they've beaten. I mean, it's the Cavs, the Rockets, the Kings, the Lakers without AD and LeBron. I think they have turned it around. I'm still not super high on them. Just last night they lost to the Kings, and obviously I think they've improved, but I'm not really sure how good they can be. I think they can maybe be a fringe playoff team, but I'm still not super high on the Hawks just yet. I think they need to start beating some better teams and more consistently, and then they'll get me.
Adrian?
I think that this is the Hawks team that we've said we're going to see for the last few years, and they've been fun to watch, but they haven't turned it into wins. And this year, you know, they've turned it into enough wins to be a playoff team and to, you know, stay in that conversation. Right now, they'd be a play-in team, but they have the same record as the 5 seed. Um, and I think that this Hawks team really has potential, and they're really offensively beautiful to watch. I just would love to see them tie it all together, but I don't think they will tie it all together this year. But shoot, while we have them, this is the Hawks team we've been saying was going to make the playoffs based on the second halves of seasons after they dug themselves in massive holes. Right, this time they just finally dug themselves out with enough time to actually, you know, make some noise.
Yeah, E, I'm curious what you think about this. I personally think that the Hawks have some of maybe, if not the best, in the top 5 best young talent in the league. I mean, this is a really good team that's, I mean, I wouldn't say they've done a great job in the draft too, but they've done a good job. Their third leading scorer, DeAndre Hunter out of Virginia, really solid. John Collins out of Wake Forest. Trey Young out of Oklahoma. They've done pretty good. They've even picked up guys like Kevin Herter and Cam Reddish who are doing jobs. Just curious about what you think.
I feel like the Hawks will go as far kind of as Trey Young takes them. I'm not Trey Young's biggest fan, but I won't deny his talent and ability because he has it in spades. I do think they need some of their younger talent outside of Trey Young, John Collins to step up, particularly Cam Reddish, who I'm a big fan of because he went to Duke and I like his game a lot. Because I think he is one of the most talented players on their roster because I think his ability to make shots and then his ability on the defensive end is something that not a lot of players on the Hawks particularly have. So I feel like they need him to kind of step up and kind of be what they envisioned when they drafted him and kind of his billing come out of high school and his time at Duke.
Any other thoughts on the Hawks before we wrap up?
No matter how good he is as a player, When we talk about drafting for the Hawks, no matter how good he is, Trey Young will always have been the wrong choice. That's really my last thing to say on the Hawks is they had Luca and here have him, like
Yeah, they had Luca, and then they got Trey Young. It's not that Trey Young's a bad
Yeah,
player, but
everybody knows.
in
Yeah.
comparison to Luca,
yeah, but that's the thing. It's never that people are. Oh, sometimes it is that people are bad players, but when we look at other drafts, it's not that we're complaining because this player was bad. It's that the other one was a generational talent. You know, is Tyreek Evans a bad player? No, he had drug problems, but no. Steph Curry was a fucking generational talent.
Love it. Love it. Last comment. Love it. Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine Luca on the Hawks. I don't know about you guys. I just cannot envision Luca in a Hawks jersey or Trey Young in a Mavs jersey personally. I'm personally happy the way it planned out. And hopefully Trey will get his shot. Maybe we'll see a Luca versus Trey Young in the NBA Finals in 2027. I'm predicting it right now. I'm psychotic. I know exactly what we're going to see. The Celtics are going to be the worst team in the league. The Hornets will be the 2 seed.
right,
The Golden State Warriors
right.
will repeat 7 times in a row as Stephen Curry wins the MVP for his 20th time.
I was gonna
All
say
right.
psychic, but no, you meant psychotic.
Yeah. Well, that about wraps it up, guys.
Wait. We forgot something.
What did we forget?
We forgot the funeral proceeding for the Houston Rockets franchise. So who would like to start with the eulogy? Who would like
I
to
think
go
we should
first?
go first. You sound like you're the most excited to talk about it.
You know, I don't get super excited about burying teams, but when it happens to come up, you know, I'm not shy about it. The Houston Rockets, can they possibly be worse?
They could be
You
the
Trey-
Timberwolves.
That's right. They could be the Timberwolves.
They
But-
beat the
Buried
Hornets
it
when
a
they
long
won like 6
time.
games.
The Timberwolves have much lower expectations, though.
Yeah, but the Timberwolves are the losingest
The
franchise
Timberwolves
in all of
can
North
start.
American sports. So, you know, I don't think you want to be in the same conversation as that. But they traded James Harden, right? James Harden, we can all agree, he's in the MVP conversation, balling out for the Nets, probably the reason they're doing so well. They traded him for essentially Victor Oladipo and some picks, right?
They
And
trade
then they
them for-
turned Victor Oladipo into Avery Bradley, Kelly Olynyk, and a pick swap. Not even the whole pick, just a swap. What are they doing? They traded Russell Westbrook for John Wall in a first round pick. John Wall isn't even playing in half the games. The Rockets, they stink. They're I don't want to say incompetent, but that's kind of looking how it is, that they seem pretty incompetent, and they really just don't seem like they have a plan outside of, we have Christian Wood, and we think we have something in Kevin Porter Jr., who to me looks like he's trying to do a James Harden impersonation. So the Rockets are a mess, plain and simple.
Yeah, I would like to stop this in the middle of this funeral and tell you the story of Houston. I would like to flash back to April 13th, 1970. On this day,
Oh.
there are astronauts up in this tiny plane, and Jim Lovell calls mission control in Houston, Texas, and says the words that will never be forgotten in American history: Houston, we have a problem. Houston fans, if you are out there, this is your declaration to get out. You're done. Your team stink. Your baseball team cheats. Your team wants to leave. Your football team wants to leave. Your quarterback's got allegations galore. I mean, and your Rockets stink. That is all I have for today.
You got
Let's
beautiful.
continue.
If we're burying them, can we at least do it in those baby blue jerseys? Those are beautiful. They're probably the best thing about Houston basketball right now, or really much of Houston sports, as Cam's pointed out. You know what? All the Houston fans who live down there, Go enjoy what, the fourth largest city in America. Y'all got good food, good place to go. Go do that. Just forget about sports this year. It's a wash.
Yeah, I've heard Houston is a phenomenal place to live. Um, Great paying jobs, low cost for housing. I believe they don't have a state like income tax. Like, please go enjoy the city. There's beautiful skyscrapers. If you drive up north 2 hours, you'll see the beautiful city of Dallas, Texas. There's phenomenal college sports programs, but I'm just sorry, Houston.
Watch the March
Professional sports
Madness.
just ain't it right now. Would anybody like to continue with
Yes, actually.
Who wants to go?
Go watch the
I
Cougars.
want to go. Okay, so
All right.
Ethan was talking about the management side. I think I should also talk about the basketball side. So if you look, they were obviously on a 20-game losing streak. And so the last game of this losing streak, they only lost by 2 points. But before that, let's look at some of these scores. They lost by 13, 16, 12, 27, 15, 20, 18, 11, 40, or 39, 11, 16, 20. And those are all in a row. And like, they're not even losing close games. They're getting obliterated on a nightly basis. It's not fun to watch. It is not pretty in any way. There are very few to no bright spots. It's really, really bad. I'm very sorry, but it's terrible. It's a shit show, and there's really nothing really good for me to say. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll just be honest. I don't know if you guys can agree. You have to try to lose that bad. Like, I would get who'd they lose to by 40? I'm just curious, Jack.
1 second, let me look at that.
Oh,
Because I remember watching
The Grizzlies. It was 133 to 84.
Because I remember
my math might have been wrong on that. Is that
it was
49?
49.
49.
49.
Yeah.
Largest win in Memphis history.
It was hard for me to process that bad of a loss, so I did the math wrong. But yes, it was 49.
because as a Warriors fan, I personally know the joyous of beating teams by 40 points, especially when it's the Clippers and Steph Curry is making behind the back half court shots. I'm not bragging. I'm just pointing out.
Sorry, we don't have 3 All-NBA players, Cam.
Sorry,
Neither
guys.
do they anymore.
But to lose to the Grizzlies, who, respect to the Grizzlies, phenomenal franchise, really good players. Grayson Allen tripping people. Sorry, my bad. I just slipped out. I'm just curious, like you have to try to be that bad. Does anybody else have anything to add to this funeral?
Put some respect.
Sorry, Steven Silas. I feel bad for you trying to coach this team to try to be competitive because there's no use. It's no use. This team sucks.
Yeah,
Mike D'Antoni is dancing in Brooklyn right now.
Yeah, he's happy. But I think we need to free Steven Silas. He got set up to fail. I feel really bad for him. Like he's also the video of him at the press conference. He just looked drained, and then the next night they win. But I have a good friend that's a Rockets fan, unfortunately. So I'm officially offering on air to give him a 1-year contract to come to the Celtics. I'm putting the offer out there. I'll let y'all know if he accepts.
Well, I don't know. I mean, is a short playoff run really better than no playoff run?
I mean, it's better than losing 20 straight games, so you tell me.
Fair.
I mean, it's looking like the Rockets could have a good chance of getting your man crush, Cade Cunningham, so they could have that.
And then find a way to butcher that, like we did James Harden.
Yeah, they'll take Jalen Johnson with the second pick instead.
Maybe they'll take Day'Ron Sharp, first overall.
The first overall pick.
He should have stayed.
Like, y'all know that in 2K14, in my career, when they select Anthony Bennett and that person in the front row goes, what? Like, that would be what would happen right there.
Shout out
like,
Bill Simmons.
Yeah. Oh, man. Does anybody have any closing remarks?
2K14, just edit the game so that you get picked instead of Anthony Bennett. It makes more sense for you to be a number 1 overall.
I know. 2020 hindsight, right? All right. Well, that about wraps it up, guys. Great conversation tonight. Everybody come back in for the next episode. We'll be back. And peace.